So I ranked the AFC quarterbacks, and that was controversial. Let's try the running backs. What is up, AFC East? So yes, I ranked the top four. Essentially, I ranked the starting quarterbacks, and it was some people got really bothered that I put Mac Jones ahead of Tua. Again, and I will preference it with what my running backs ranking as right now, right? If Tua continues to progress, Tua continues to get better, and Tua stays healthy all year, he will surpass Mac Jones easily. Because, like I said in the rankings video, he has better stats than Mac Jones and better accuracy and like all this stuff. So, but yeah, we're going to talk about running backs. Now, looking at this one, right, I was like, am I just going to do running backs, or am I going to kind of rank the AFC run game? And that's where I got caught up a little bit, right? Because right now I'm looking at my list, and I kind of looked at each team's top three running backs. And I was like, am I going to do the running backs or the run game? Because I kind of want to rank, because when we get to the offensive line, I'm going to do the whole offensive line. So I'm going to rank the AFC East offensive line. So it's going to be a team thing. So what I think I'm going to do, because quarterback is just one position, whereas you have wide receiver, running back, offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, corners, and safeties. I think I'm going to do it as a team thing. Let me know in the comment section if you're like, Doug, I'd actually prefer you to pick a player and then rank them, the top four, of each team, their top one. And if a lot of you guys are like, you prefer the player versus ranking the team, then I'll redo the running backs and pick individual players. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to rank the running game for the AFC East by their team. And I have a feeling this is going to rub some people the wrong way, but I'll give you my reasoning. You guys can discuss it, and yeah, we'll go from there. So let's jump into this. I'm going to go from this one. I'm going to go 4-1, and I'm going to start with number 4. Now, the number 4 running game, or the number 4 run team, is going to have to be, until proven differently. And again, that's my thing. I'm not assuming things. I'm not saying, and I did the same thing with Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson can ball out and have a way better second year than he did his rookie year. And I could be assuming that all these things are going to flourish around him. Same thing with Tua, same thing with all these guys. But I'm talking about right now, without assumptions, the number 4 team in the AFC East when it comes to the run game, when it comes to their running backs, fortunately, is going to have to be the Miami Dolphins. They were ranked 30th last year, 30th in rushing last year. Their offensive line was hot garbage, but they added some weapons. Teron Armstead, Connor Williams on that left side. Still don't know what's going on at center. Dieter, to give you a little insight, because I did start working on offensive line, Dieter was ranked 28th out of 39 centers when it came to PFF. So he's kind of on the bottom tier. And then we still have Robert Hunt, who's did a fantastic job. And then there's the fight at right tackle, right? Their running back core got better, but is it enough? And this is why I have them right now, before camp, before anything, ranked the 4th. Because they added Chase Edmonds, who last year had 592 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. He averaged 5.1 yards a carry. They added Raheem Mostert, who only played 1 game last year, but the year before in 2020 had 521 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 yards a carry. And they brought in Sony Michel, who had 845 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, and 4.1 yards a carry. So they have a very good 1-2-3 punch. They also still have Savon Ahmed. They still have Myles Gaskin. They brought in Secondry White. So they do have a good backfield. but I don't know if it's going to translate. They also bring Mike McDaniel, who's a very good, run game coordinator. And the reason that the 49ers had such a good run game was because of Mike McDaniel. All of these things are promising. But again, I'm not dealing in, promise. I'm not dealing in hopefulness or speculation and what could be. I'm dealing in right now. And right now, they're ranked the 30th in rushing. And their best running back on the team right now would probably be Sony Michel. He had 845-yard rushing last year, 4 touchdowns, and his first 2 years almost broke 1,000 yards. So that being said, I'm going to unfortunately have to put the Dolphins last, but I don't think they're going to be last when it comes to midseason. I think what Mike McDaniel's bringing in, and hopefully this offensive line with all the coaching that's going to have, and Teron Armstead, Connor Williams, all that good stuff, and hopefully adding some more depth at that center position, I think this team's going to have a very different look when it comes to the rushing. The third team that is on this list of rushing, whether it's the team or whatever, is the New York Jets. They were ranked 27th in rushing last year. Their leading rusher was Michael Carter, ran for 639 yards, 4 touchdowns, averaged 4.3 yards a carry. Tevin Coleman behind him with 356 yards, no touchdowns, 4.2 yards a carry. And they drafted Breece Hall, one of the top running backs in the NFL draft. I think they did it in the second round, if my brain is working correctly. At Ohio State, his last year, they rushed for 1,472 yards, 20 touchdowns, 5.8 yards a carry. But again, Breece Hall, I don't know if he'll translate to the NFL. I don't know how he'll translate to the NFL. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, he had 1,400 rushing yards in the college, so this is huge. I'm not saying Breece Hall isn't a good addition, but I have them third because of Michael Carter, what he did. That's the reason I put them ahead of the Miami Dolphins. And again, I'm not dealing with speculation with Breece Hall. Not saying he will or won't be good, but same reason why. Because if that's the case, I would shoot the Dolphins up to a different number because there's a ton of upside and hope when it comes to that team. Now, this is where it got interesting. This is where it got real interesting, and I might rub either the Bills or the Patriots fans wrong with this one, but this is where it got real interesting, and this is where I took a certain aspect of the run game, and I put my thought process in it. The number 2 team in the AFC East when it comes to their run game, when it comes to the rushing, when it comes to running back in general, is the Buffalo Bills. And I'm expecting Bills fans to be like, you kidding me? Well, because they were ranked 6th in rushing, right? Devin Singletary, 870 yards, 7 touchdowns, 4.6 yards a carry. Zach Moss, 345 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3.6 yards a carry. They did draft James Cook out of Georgia, 728 yards, 7 touchdowns his last year. And again, they were ranked 6th in rushing, but the reason they were ranked 6th in rushing is their second leading rusher was Josh Allen with 763 yards and 6 touchdowns. Now you could say, well, Doug, that's an aspect of their run game. Not necessarily, because some of his yards, and I'd say a big chunk of his yards, came from him dropping back to pass. Either the pressure got to him or not seeing anything and him taking off. That necessarily is not part of the run game. You're not turning around handing the ball off, or it's not an RPO or anything like that in that aspect. And that is why I put them second, because 763 of their rushing yards came from their quarterback on draws and on scrambles and on stuff like that. So obviously the number 1 rushing team in the AFC East right now, again, I expect this to be a completely different list. Maybe I will update these lists at the end of the year, is the New England Patriots. They were ranked 8th in the NFL, but Damian Harris had 929 yards. He was very close to 1,000 yards, 15 touchdowns on 4.6 yards a carry. I'm going to try to Stevenson, Ramondre Stevenson, 606 yards, 5 touchdowns, 4.6 yards carry. James White didn't really do anything, but I tried to give their top 3 ranked running backs. But just from Damian Harris and Stevenson, that's a big chunk of their rushing yards, and you don't see Mac Jones running for 763 yards. And that is the reason I put the Patriots 1 and the Bills 2. I understand the Bills are 6th ranked and the Patriots are 8th ranked, but Josh Allen's 763 rushing yards really propelled them above the Patriots to put them 6th ranked. And again, I don't necessarily, maybe some of it had to do with RPO and some of it had to do with, read option, and he kept the ball and took off and got some yards. But I would say a big chunk of it had to do with scrambling, broken down plays, and stuff like that. So that is my list of, and if I had to do running backs, just to throw that out there and to answer your guys' questions, I would put Damian Harris first. I would put Devin Singletary second. See, but that's hard for me because James Cook and Breece Hall, I don't know what they could be. But just going off that, like Devin Singletary, like if you go off just rushing yards, it's Damian Harris, Devin Singletary, Sony Michel. And then it's like the rookies, what could they be? So I kind of did a team thing. Again, let me know if you prefer me to do individual players, because we're about to do wide receivers in the next video, and I'm going to, again, clump it together as wide receiver core. But that's my list. Dolphins 4, Jets 3, Bills 2, Patriots 1. Comment below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And again, I'm not talking about what could be and potential and, because I talked about with the Dolphins, adding Mike McDaniel, adding the offensive line help, all this stuff. There's a ton of promise, but I'm dealing with right now. What's your ranking for the AFC when it comes to their run game? And yeah, be sure to comment below. And I'm going to get to a comment of the day. I have a very good comment of the day here. This one comes from David. And David said, comment of the day, hey, Doug, besides J.C. Treader, what other O-line should be target? How about Darrell Williams? For me right now, J.C. Treader is like the top of my list. I want the Dolphins to add a center. Again, Michael Dieter being the only legit center on the team besides the undrafted free agent we brought in, who's kind of a guard center position. Even Michael Dieter wasn't a legit center. He was a left guard when we drafted him and then moved to the center position. I really want to add that center position and have J.C. Treader come in, compete with Michael Dieter. Best man wins. They get the center position, and then you have depth. God forbid one of them gets injured. I think they're both very viable centers. But other than that, I'm good. I like the competition going on at the right tackle position, and I know a lot of you guys are worried over the fact of that's Tua's blind spot. But even, some great offensive linemen out there. Richmond Webb even talked about it on Reason's channel about how you have a good left tackle, left guard, center, and right guard, and one of your the right tackle is the problem. You don't have to worry about the rest. Kick Al Gingold over there. Have him help, whoever that right tackle is. But I honestly think between Austin Jackson, Liam Eichenberg, there's so many Jones and Kalen Deesh, competing at right tackle. I think they're going to find somebody very good to help in that position, especially with the offensive line coaches that we brought in. And I say coaches because Applebaum and our offensive coordinator also really good offensive line work. So just J.C. Treader for me. Other than that, I think the Dolphins offensive line is pretty decent. And if the coaching works out and these players play the way they should, it's going to be pretty good. And then all of a sudden you see this run game take off and the Dolphins might be top ranked. But other than that, guys, like I said, comment below. Let me know what you think of my list. And again, I'm going to do cores for most of the area. I think maybe cornerback, I'll list them off individually. Maybe I'll do both. Kind of list them off individually, but also do the cores. But comment below, let me know what you think of my list. And other than that, guys, I'll see you tomorrow for day 3 of OTAs. And hopefully media's in there and we get more news and notes. But other than that, guys, like usual, stay classy. Fins up.